Disclaimer. I am a law student, and the legal information provided is not legal advice. For that, please hire an attorney. But without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get into Lauren Chen, someone else who I have not covered yet. Boomer watching Gage. I know, right? Oh, Mouthy is here. Awesome. Well, hey, perfect timing. Let's go ahead and bring Mouthy into the call. Hello there. Hello, Mouthy?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am living. I am absolutely living. So, thank you so much for coming on at like the last minute. I really appreciate it, especially because obviously so we're going to be talking about Lauren Chen, but like your clip of her like really took off on Twitter. It's something which everyone is talking about. So I appreciate you being able to come on. I think this should be like a good combo.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So first off, before we talk about Lauren Chen, because I know that you watched the video, right? We were just reacting to it. I haven't looked at it. Could you give us like a TLDR, just so that we don't? I'm not sure if I want to. Unless you want to watch the whole thing, we can. But I'm more interested in like the segment that's been going around. Do you want to give people like a summary of kind of what she talks about in here?
Yeah, so I think so she was essentially responding to a Gravel Institute video. And the basic premise of the Gravel Institute video is that the idea of big government isn't intrinsically a
A what?
problem in the Gravel Institute, Brianna Greyjoy in the a problem. Like it's not intrinsically a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because she talked about how there's like a general consensus in the U.S. that people think like the government doesn't work for them. And Brianna Greyjoy talked about how conservatives will attribute this to big government being intrinsically bad. And Brianna Greyjoy is making the point that there are many other countries with much larger governments with respects to how they interact with our economic system. Many countries which have much bigger governments than us and much higher rates of like freedom and lower rates of poverty and lower rates of income inequality and stuff like that. And essentially, Brianna Greyjoy made the argument that the problem with big government is, or the problem with the government in the U.S. isn't that it's big; it's that it's essentially bought by large corporations, which is something that I think I like 70% agree with.
Okay. I mean, like I tend to like.
And
sorry,
Lauren Chen's basic counter argument. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like I think I basically. I mean, like again, without thinking about it more. I mean, like I guess for me, just as someone who, I mean, like I'm taking legislation this semester. I've studied government, like I have a poli-sci degree. I mean, like I think that there is I think that it's a reasonable argument, right, to say that like the issue, like having big government is not inherently a bad thing. It's more about like how external factors can affect like a larger government and like how effective it is actually like representing I don't know if you want to call it like the will of the people, or actually like fulfills like basic services of government, which is like trying to enact a system which is fair to everyone, not just like certain people in society, right? And so like when you have like a government which is able to be effectively bought by large capital, pretty handedly, right? Like I mean, like I'm not gonna like there are massive ways that like capital can have like large effects on American politics. I don't think that anyone even necessarily disagrees with that idea, right? It's just the issue that like yeah, like it's just that we should more focus on like that than like the idea that like large government is actually a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I do agree with that. I think like the one hang up that I have is I feel like and I actually made my own like semi response video to the Gravel Institute's video before Lauren Chen.
Oh, really?
And I think like essentially yeah, it's kind of funny. That's how I found like Lauren Chen's video actually.
Oh my god.
But like my basic thing is I generally agree that there's a problematic influence of corporate lobbying on our government, but I also think that a lot of people on the left tend to underplay how significant of an influence how people vote actually has on the government. So like I think Brianna Greyjoy in her video was like the American people have essentially zero influence on what policies are passed because it's all big capital. And I think that's like a bit of an exaggeration. And I feel like we should generally focus on how to change our culture and our society in ways that actually amend or try and mend how people vote, as opposed to just pretending like the entire problem is lobbying.
Yeah. No, and I mean,
So
like, I do agree with that, right? Like, I see, like, a lot of the bedrock for modern, like, for most of politics being the fact that, like, you know, whether or not we want to think in these terms or not, like, there are a lot of people who are just, like, strictly opposed to literally anything center of left leaning. I mean, like, for the most part, like, people who are either conservative or apolitical in the United States at the very minimum will look at, like, anyone who is center left leaning as, like, anyone who is, like, anywhere center of left leaning is basically communist, right? And then not only that, but so they'll make a false equivalence initially, and then they'll also, like, because they don't understand what it is. And mind you, like, you know, I think that it's fine to be critical of communism, right? But most of the people who actually, like, make that sort of an inference don't actually know what it is, right? Or I think I can say that pretty confidently, right? Like, most people will be like, oh, it's the Soviet Union. And then it's like, okay, well, that's just an example. Can you give me a definition? The whole Rose wrist argument. I've done it. But anyway.
Hello, sorry. I got, like, transported to a different room for a second. I don't know what happened.
Oh, that's weird. All right, well, hold on. We're going to bring in, because someone else is going to be joining the call. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in Miss Amanda. Hello. Amanda, are you there? Hello? Hello? Oh, no. Well, until she starts talking, I guess we're just gonna keep on moving along. So yeah, that's basic. So what was Lauren Chen's basic response to or I mean, like, we can watch the video. We can go through
Hi,
it just
can you
as
hear
easily.
me?
Hey, yeah, now we can hear you.
Hello?
What's up? Hey. Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, no.
All right, I'm gonna move you back to verified until you get that worked out. But yeah, so if you want, we can go ahead and watch the video, or if you think you can summarize Lauren Chen's arguments up until, like, the clip that I want to talk about, then we can do whatever you feel is more comfortable.
Oh yeah, I think I can summarize it pretty well. If I remember correctly, Lauren's video has like a lot of pretty irrelevant like rambling in it about like why PragerU is good and stuff. But
Amazing.
yeah, but I think her basic counter argument was that while Brianna Greyjoy appealed to the success of big governments in like Scandinavian countries and how they do well with economic metrics, Lauren Chen's counter argument was essentially that you can't actually attribute the economic success of those nations to their economic policies or to their big government. And the actual reason that these countries are successful is because they are homogenous and high IQ.
Where?
Like
yeah.
That's like the clip that was going around. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Where's that in the video? Because that's what I really want to talk about. That's what I'm most interested in.
I think it was like hold on, I'll have to.
I can scrub through a little bit.
The federal government actually isn't as big as it used to be, pointing to a specific figure in 1954. So if the government isn't as big as it used to be, then clearly that must mean that the government is actually getting smaller all the time, not bigger all the time like those lying conservatives like to say.
1050 mark in the
1050?
video.
Okay.
Than in America.
There are a lot of differences between the US, Germany, and Finland.
Here we go.
But if you...
Here, I'll share my screen to you so you should be able to see it.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. Tell me, can you see it?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to start playing. Let me know if you can't hear it.
ask a socialist why it is that Germany and Finland perform better than the US in certain metrics, they'll say it's because the government is bigger and the taxes are higher. That is the answer to prosperity. Is that right though? Are higher taxes and big government really the answer to Germany and Finland's success? It couldn't possibly be because they have overwhelmingly homogeneous populations. Right? Populations that, by the way, also have a higher average IQ and narrower distribution than the US does. If it was true that you could just big government and tax any population into happiness and success, then the story of the Soviet Union would be very different.
Holy shit. Damn. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any quick comments on that? Do you have any quick comments before I start talking?
Yeah, I guess it's one of the things that was pretty astounding is like it towards the beginning of the video, she was talking about how like the Gravel Institute is like this far left socialist organization, whereas PragerU is just like a centrist right wing
Are you
organization.
goddamn serious?
Where- Yeah,
Centrist?
yeah.
Holy shit.
And then she goes on to peddle like blatant white nationalist
Oh
rhetoric.
yeah, no, complete white nationalist. I think that the most amazing thing about this, right? Because let's be clear, like, yeah, if you're talking about like the fact that it's not actually that they have good economic policies and big government. No, it's the fact that they're mainly homogenous, i.e. that they're white and they have a higher IQ by virtue of the fact that they're white. Yeah. I mean, like literally just dog whistling white nationalism. What's most amazing to me is how she tried. I don't know. Did you see her try to backpedal on social media?
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny to me because she's trying to like frame it as like, what? I'm not like a race realist or anything. When there's like literally screenshots of her like have you seen the screenshot where she's like some kid was like attacked by a dog and somebody tagged her like what kind of dog do you think did this, Lauren? And she was like probably one where the overwhelming propensity for violence says nothing about the breed.
Yeah. No, I 100%, I
Breeder, like
100%
some
saw
like
that.
incredibly blatant like race realist dog whistle.
Yeah. If someone can drop that,
So
yeah. If
it's
someone,
funny.
no. Listen, you're fine. You're fine. If someone drops that link in the chat, I'll 100% bring it up. But yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of amazing. It's also amazing because like when she was like called out about this on like social media, we can just run through it really quick, right? So like someone literally asked, so if it's not racial homogeneity that you want, what kind of homogeneity is it that you want, Lauren? And she says, oh, well, education, wealth, skill, language, culture, religion, literally all parts of society. Yeah, it's literally like she describes like every single part of the society has to be the same, right? Also the
Yeah.
fact that she says wealth, right? It's like, oh, wow, amazing. So you want a society where people have homogenous amounts of wealth, Lauren? And
Yeah, that's funny because if her argument is like, these places are successful because they have like equal amounts of things like wealth and education, and that's her argument about against why we should have like wealth redistribution and like free education programs in the US. Like that seems like a really like counterintuitive argument to be making, I guess. It's almost like that wasn't actually her point.
yeah, I know, right? Also, someone dropped me the link to the tweet that we were talking about. Yeah, this little man's a king. And it's the dog attack. Lauren Chen, let me guess what kind of dog it was, and she says, "When were the overwhelming stats say nothing about the breed?" I'm sure. Yeah, which is like a little yikesy. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure if I don't feel like I'm the minority opinion here when I say maybe she's dog whistling white nationalism a little bit. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think that is just kind of hilarious, right? Or I don't know. I say it hilarious, but like it is, it sucks. Where you have someone who is literally trying to pay like appeal fundamentally to a lot of people, and I mean, like I see this among a lot of conservatives, right? Like usually most of them will like downplay how far right they are politically. Like when they describe themselves, I mean, like I see this from literally anyone nowadays, whether or not it's just like, oh, I'm a free thinker, or oh, I'm just like right of center, or oh, I'm a classical liberal, right? That's like the UK European version of it, right? A lot of these people will downplay how much like they actually buy into shit like this, but then like when actually put under a little pressure, they'll actually like unironically dog whistle white nationalism. I don't know. I feel like that says a lot more about their personal views than like anytime they like self-identify themselves to their audience. And it's dangerous because like audiences will believe this because they won't actually like do any due diligence to like look more into them.
I also wanted to say like not only is it like completely aberrant how she's like engaging in such like blatant far right dog whistles, but like what she said is like so like empirically incoherent as well.
Mm.
Like I looked at some of the IQ stats, and the average IQ difference between the US and Norway, between the US and Germany, and pretty much every Scandinavian country is about like a 1 point average IQ difference.
Are you
Um,
serious?
Yeah, so it's like you can't even like coherently attribute it to that in any sense.
Right. It's literally, it can't possibly be that they have a better system of government, more welfare, more welfare programs, and like better taxation. It's that like, there's totally an IQ difference, even when like statistically speaking, like the difference is like almost meaningless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of these arguments. Like it's just kind of like, yeah, obviously like they're empirically laughable, right? But also, or I mean, like the way I should say is like not only are they just like morally laughable, right? Because like she is trying to peddle off what is like a hate ideology to people, like to an audience that may not know any better. But also the fact that like she's trying to make herself out to be like sort of like a secular, like she's trying to make it like a secular argument, right? In the way that race real, I mean, like literally, like I would say normally, like the example I would analogize to is race realist, but she's literally doing the race realism. Like normally, like race realists will try to make themselves out to be like very like secular. Oh, we just want what's best for everyone. Oh, we're just following the evidence. But then when you actually follow the evidence, it's just kind of rubbish, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's she was definitely like it's really troubling to me because she before and after keeps trying to, like you said, just like downplay like how blatantly far right she is.
Mm-hmm.
And like another example of that was like throughout the video, I mean the video is literally about big government. And she's like, I'm a small government conservative. But I found a tweet from her from like a year ago or something
Mm-hmm.
where she's like, I'm against big government when it comes to economics, but on social issues, nah.
Oh,
like
fuck.
literally saying like the state should come in to like crush degeneracy or something.
Fuck. Yeah, I mean, like that's the way that a lot of, I don't know, like it's always it always tends to be with people who say that they're against small government. And I see a lot of conservatives make this sort of argument, right? They say that they're against small government, but then they'll argue that like, oh, well, we should have government, enforce like various social issues, like whether or not it's women's body or a woman's ability to be able to have bodily autonomy as in regards to like abortion care and all that.
Mhm.
Whether it's in regards to like how to treat LGBT people under the law, whether it's in regards to like police and how strongly to enforce like police and police rule, especially when it's disproportionately against people of color, right? Like every time that conservatives talk about big government and being critical of big government, I can't help but think like, oh, you're saying that, but literally like it's only an argument that you ever apply. It seems when it would be government actually doing something decent for the welfare of like most people, right? But like when you have but like when you want a government to actually actively oppress people who come from demographics that you for whatever reason probably don't like, then you're completely fine with it. I don't know, just an observation about how people apply those arguments in general.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It seemed really weird to me because she was like, she was like arguing, like in her critiques of like things like diversity were just like really weird because I think she made the argument in a follow-up video where she was like responding to Shoe on Head that like immigration like increases poverty because like immigrants are like more poor or something, but like that's not even true. Like pretty much every study that I've looked over has shown that like immigration generally increases like GDP per capita among like all income groups. So it's
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. I
just
mean,
like I
yeah.
don't know.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I feel like she doesn't actually like care about honestly engaging with any research on it and with any of the things that she talks about. She just kind of cares about like I guess like dog whistling to white nationalists and then pretending like she wasn't doing that.
That seems pretty common. Also, hey Amanda, I noticed that you joined the call. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you, and I'm so sorry. This is like my first time on Discord, so I do deeply apologize for any like issues I was having before.
You're fine. How you doing?
And I'm doing good. I'm actually very th thankful for being here, and I have like, you know me, I have a lot to say on this matter.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, hey, I think that Mouthy and I basically got through a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about in specific. So, like,
mhm.
if you want to go ahead, I know that you want to come on to talk about Lauren Chen in particular. I was told that you have a lot of like very specific arguments. So, can you go ahead and like share with the audience what your general thoughts are?
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, first of all, I just happen to be one of those type of people in the past that watched people like her and followed her channel. And in the past, I really thought she was just this like basic conservative. But over time, I started to realize that this wasn't incorrect. I've seen her. If you just look at the past, this is like nothing new. Like when I saw this video, I wasn't shocked in the very least at
Mm.
all. In the chat, I posted a Rational Wiki article that pretty much shows like every other incident where she has went this far with her white nationalist rhetoric.
Here, let me go ahead.
And
I'll find it, but yeah, go ahead and keep. I think I got it.
oh yeah, it was.
Here we go.
Everyone immediately thinks of Richard Spencer when they think of how she has been with the alt right, but there were so many other people. There was Stefan Molyneux. Just that video alone that she did on Soph, if everyone remembers Soph, that far right YouTuber that's about 14 years old.
Great.
She called her just a foul-mouthed 14-year-old girl talking about politics. Didn't go really into detail of like how disturbing the stuff Soph has said over time. Like, I know this might bother people, but what she has said was a lot of things against Muslims, saying that all Muslims should be killed. That kind of stuff got popped up. She made a death threat towards the CEO of YouTube. So this is what she tends to do. She always tends to make it look like every type of like person on the alt-right, the white nationalists that she speaks to are just normal conservatives that are just talking about regular politics. They're not saying anything horrific. And she tends to do this to her audience. And I think what frustrates me the most about Lauren Chen is that there's so many people that just assume the exact same thing I assumed years ago. So when I saw that this video actually reached about 1.1 million views, which is pretty awesome, actually, because more and more people are starting to realize who she really is as a person. I did see the video in question where she calls Shu a socialist, and she cries about, and unfortunately, it's sad. Like, it's sad that her father has cancer, but she uses his cancer to cry about the healthcare system in Canada because she's Canadian.
Even worse than that too, because she not only like uses her father's cancer to like talk about how the healthcare system.
Sorry, you got out there.
She uses her father's healthcare. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So she didn't only like use her father's cancer to like talk about why Canada's healthcare is bad. She used her father's cancer to blame the failures of Canada's healthcare system on immigrants, which is like so insane. Like, as somebody who's like done extensive research into like various healthcare systems in various countries, like the idea that you could attribute issues with wait times in the Canadian healthcare system that have existed for like decades on like a sudden surge in immigrants is like absolutely insane.
And just to add as well, I am a Canadian and I know that there are long wait times. But here's the thing, we do have privatized healthcare here. I don't like how she just kind of slides through that, just doesn't mention it. And just to mention as well, it's no secret that her family and her have a good amount of money that I can't even imagine having. So I actually found out today through Twitter that she started a GoFundMe for her father, but she's stating in the GoFundMe that she wants people to send her money for travel expenses as well, because they're traveling to the United States to get treatment that way. And which reality that if you go to privatized healthcare in Canada, it's actually going to you're going to be spending less money than you would if you went to the US. So I just found that really suspicious when I saw that. And yeah, I just feel like it frustrates me as a Canadian as well, just to, and I live in the same province as her. So she has called, gay pride degenerate. She tends to say that a lot. She calls herself a Christian nationalist. She has called for a crusade.
Wait, are you goddamn serious? Are you serious?
Yeah, she called for a crusade.
Amazing. Unsurprising, but amazing.
Not surprising at all. On Twitter, she also mentioned that the feds should be like released on like protesters. So this is the type of person that seems to get away with a lot, and I don't know why. I tried to understand it. I tried to really understand why someone like her can get away with it. More and more people have been aware of what Stefan Molyneux is like, what Lauren Southern is like, even people like Tim Pool. But Lauren Chen seems to fly under the radar a lot. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that video that was posted was awakening people.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. I think that it's a lot easier, or I don't want to say a lot easier. I think it's pretty easy for a lot of people who have like these kind of crazy views to be able to fly under the radar for a while, because like YouTube and like other similar platforms are made to where like you already can't at a baseline say those kinds of things outright, or like say the kind of things that you're dog whistling, right? Like if you actively, like just recently we had a bunch of like openly like white nationalist or Nazi YouTube channels like deplatformed or taken off altogether, right? Like the name of the game is dog whistling, and how effectively you can do it, right? So it's not surprising that a lot of people have sort of figured out the formula and how to be able to do it well and go largely unnoticed by skeptic eyes. I think that for her, I don't know why she's gotten away with it. Like, how large is she as a channel at this point? Like, she's 436K subscribers.
Yes.
So like she's large, right? Like she's getting to the point where people will, actually like put her under a much more scrutinous eye. Although, I mean, like she has a Rational Wiki article. You probably have to have done a lot of bad shit in order to get on there, right? But I think that with her, I think it's a really good example of like basically how the far right is able to dog whistle white nationalism and still go largely unavoided for a while. Because yeah, she doesn't, like, I agree. Like, I don't think that she has come under as much scrutiny as other people. And I think that's like representative of, a skill that's becoming largely more refined as we go on with time, right? Like people with these kinds of crazy views, to be able to cloak their ideas, which are terrible and morally abhorrent, in sort of like morally neutral, secular-y language. I mean, hell, we see this with like TERFs all the time now. Like literally they're told at like conferences for these various TERF organizations that, oh, well, we can't actually just say what we want to say anymore. We have to respond with like more neutral, secular arguments. Like, oh, we're just concerned about women's rights, and we're only concerned with like, what the data says, even though they have no data. Just like Lauren Chen, she'll make like some kind of vague appeal to like IQ data, and it's kind of just rubbish and doesn't really mean what she thinks it means in the slightest. Yeah, no, it's just very interesting.
I do wonder though if a lot of right wingers that follow her and follow other people like Tim Pool, are they aware of dog whistles itself, or are they like just very much aware of dog whistles but they don't care? Is it like a mixture of people? Like there's some people that actually don't know what dog whistles are.
I think that it's probably, I mean, like based on the one Lauren Chen, I mean, like, all right, let's be clear. Like the one tweet where she talks about like the dog and that the breed, where the overwhelming stats say nothing about the breed, I'm sure, like that is a dog whistle, right? I don't think that anyone in good faith could post, like I don't think that anyone in good faith could post something like that and not know that they were like nudge nudge, wink wink,
Right.
like implying that this was about race, right? Like I don't think that anyone could do that and not know what they were up to, right? So like at least with. But I get what you're saying, right? It's like how much are people aware of like whether or not they're engaging in dog whistling or not? I think it's probably most of the time, right? I just think that like the thing about it is like I think that usually what happens is like people know that they're dog whistling, but they feel morally justified in doing so, Like it's more a matter of like they know that they're dog whistling, and they know that there's that they're navigating their way around like Twitter or YouTube or Twitch TOS to make sure that they aren't banned from the platform altogether. But they probably feel like, oh, but I know that I'm right. Society's just trying to keep me down because they know that I'm right. They know I'm right, damn it. And so like they feel like they're justified in doing so because they're so firmly convinced that they are on the right side of this. Now, why they convince themselves that they're on the right side of this is a whole nother discussion, right? But that's probably, at least like insofar as like their mental process for why they dog whistle, that's probably a good reason. I mean, like people dog whistle a little bit on the left, not as much because I mean like no one on the left is like ashamed of their views because there's no reason to be. Like no one has to be ashamed. Like one thing I'm very happy to say is that like there's, I mean, like, I don't know, like tankies are a little like there are some forms of tankies that have to dog whistle a bit, right? Like, all right, that's probably the exception. They go off to their corner of the internet and we have nothing to do with them. But like, for the most part, like, fuck, if we have people who are just advocating for like basic human rights, decommodification of like basic human necessities, easier access to civil rights and liberties, right? Like, yeah, there's no dog whistling necessary there. It's just kind of like, yeah, these are just generally good things that any like healthy society should have.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah. So I don't know.
And yeah, just to add, like if everyone can look at that article, like it goes years back. Like even Richard Spencer himself called her useful to his alt-right views. He said it's not her fault she's mixed. She believes the bell curve is factual and there's nothing racist about that.
Yeah.
It just goes far beyond what we've seen so far come out.
And it's like doubly interesting for me because like you brought up the comparison with someone like Tim Pool and how people like know like what Tim Pool is, but they don't really see it as much with Lauren Chen. And that's like, it feels like it should be like the other way around, if anything, because like I feel like Tim Pool, if anything, is like a neocon goon who's like LARPing as a centrist or a liberal, whereas like Lauren Chen is like a fascist who's LARPing as a neocon goon. You know, it's like
Interesting.
Even more egregious. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny that like she even has like the if anyone noticed the flag in the background, like, and then she calls herself pseudo-intellectual. Like, I don't know if she's doing this on purpose. Like, does she think it's a joke? I really don't know. But like, I don't care about people like Tim Pool or Lauren Chen, Candace Owens even doing this for money or if they're doing this for a joke. Like the damage they are doing is just, it goes far beyond my care about what they're doing. But you're right about Tim Pool, actually. Like Tim Pool, I think he calls himself a liberal. If I'm not
He
mistaken.
does. Yeah, he actually unironically calls himself a liberal. Even though literally like every argument he has ever made is like completely it's. I mean, nowadays it's just chilling for Trump, right? Like I think that like actually no, hold on, just out of pure curiosity, how much do we want to bet? Like how many of his latest videos do we want to bet are about how Trump is going to win the election? Like how much do we want to bet? Here, let's
I would
take.
say at least a portion of them are about civil war too.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trump catching COVID has actually helped him. Yeah. All right, this person is not worth taking seriously. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed with like a lot of people like Tim Pool and Steven Crowder and like these kinds of people. Like every time something happens to Trump that like all the polling indicates is bad, they're like, no, it's actually good.
Ignore literally all overwhelming consensus on the subject. Yeah, it's fine. Everything is fine. It's great. Trust me. Just trust me. What are my sources? Just trust me, bro.
I think Dave Rubin did the same exact thing as well. He said something like it was actually good that like Trump got it, and like it's just I don't know, like I don't understand their.
Well, I mean, like this is just everyone coping, right? Like it's just like everyone is like just huffing on copium with the fact that like their glorious leader who's been talking about how the coronavirus isn't a big deal, how it's just a hoax for like literally the entirety of the time that we've been dealing with it, has suddenly gotten it, and it's literally just time to rationalize. Oh fuck, how do we justify this? How do we make them look good coming out of this?
Dave Rubin like literally made the argument that Trump got the coronavirus to give Americans hope that if he can get over it, they can too.
Right. No, I remember seeing that, and I was just like, holy shit. They're literally making the argument that like, oh no, it's a good thing because now that I've gotten it, I can overcome it. Well, you can too, unless you can't afford literally like the best medical care in the entirety of our country, which also isn't provided people free. But the president, that's a different story, right? I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me that Trump is like, listen, yeah, y'all can overcome this just like I did, even though I didn't have to pay for my medical care and I got the best medical care in the country. I don't know. It's just kind of funny that people can actually believe that's a decent argument, but is what it is.
I just think the reason they're making that argument actually is because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. Like a lot of these right wingers rely on having these specific types of opinions to get their money. They don't want to like admit that they made a mistake, that they were wrong about something. And I feel at least a lot of the people I surround myself with are actually willing to go, I think I was wrong on this one. I would like to do more research. And I just feel like a lot of people like Dave Rubin, they don't want to do that. It will affect their money. It would affect their income.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I mean, like a lot of these people are essentially like married to their political platforms, right? And like basically everyone who's like overly in support of Trump, like even I know that Ben Shapiro historically has come off as like, oh, I don't like Ben, I'm not here to support Trump. I'm not here to actually like defend him, regardless of what he does. I just think that he happens to do things X, Y, and Z right. Like even though like he'll say that he's not like like a 100% Trump stand no matter what he does. Like he unironically will just completely defend Trump in whatever he happens to do, right? Like there's nothing that Trump could do that these conservative pundits would look at and be like, oh, that was the wrong decision, right? Like they'll always find some way to be able to justify it. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that like this is good. All right, I don't want to say. I'm trying to think like the best way. I certainly hope. What my hope is, genuinely, is that we are starting to get to a point where like this and other related instances, whether it's like the president catching coronavirus and conservative pundits not knowing what to say to be able to justify it, or someone literally dog whistling white nationalism. I really hope that we're getting to a point where like people who consume this media, who may otherwise be like decently like good faith actors, would look that in the face and be like, oh yeah, that's bad. I should really like challenge why I consume this media or support these content creators or their views, right? Because otherwise, right, the alternative is either not caring that much, which is pretty bad, to not care about like the people that you consume content from, dog whistling white nationalism. It's either just the alternatives are either not caring that much, which I do like. Political apathy is terrible, or just kind of buying into the arguments, which is not a good thing, right? I would say that like anyone who believes in race realism is not a good thing, something that we should avoid as a society. And so I hope that people kind of realize that like with conservatives like doubling back over as much as they are to try and justify these things, that people start to eventually realize that like, oh, these people are in the wrong. Like
I think
yeah.
I think Trump losing is, I mean, in all likelihood, he's going to anyways. I think that would be like a huge hit because, like all of these people like Dave Rubin and Steven Crowder and Michael Knowles are spending all of this time going like, no, actually all the polls are propaganda, bro. Trust me. He's going to win in a landslide. And I think when he just like loses like massively, there's going to be really no choice other than to like fall into some sort of conspiracy or like admit that like everyone that you listen to is just like completely delusional.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like people are already on the verge of conspiracy, right? I mean like Trump has literally been priming everyone for the idea that like, oh, well, even if the election finds that he didn't win fairly, or finds that he didn't win, that the election was somehow fraudulent, or that there was something wrong with the votes or whatever, right? Like he's been priming people to basically get into a conspiracy mindset for weeks upon months already, right? Like, I mean, like whether it's talking about this or talking about like COVID and the idea that like, oh, the Democrats are just like, manipulating or just like manufacturing this virus to try and get at me politically without any, evidence to that effect, right? And eventually having to backtrack on that completely. Or whether it's talking about the election and literally just like priming the entirety of his base to just not believe an election which finds that he didn't win. Yeah, like no, they're gonna have to at some point just like all the like at the end of the day, that's all that they really have to fall back on is conspiracy. Because like, and here's the hot take, if they actually cared about like being scientifically or like empirically accurate, then none of them would hold the political views that they do. Because like when you actually follow the evidence, I've said this before, I think I'll stand by it. I would say that empirical evidence has a pretty left-leaning bias when you actually look at it holistically and accurately. I think I can stand by that, at least in regards to like all of the things that we've talked about already, right? That's the reason that I tend to be left-leaning. My whole platform is evidence-based arguments for advancing and defending civil rights, and it's because I just try to follow the evidence, and it leads me to the conclusions that the beliefs that I hold. So yeah, I don't know. Like it'll be really sad to see people literally just kind of falling back on conspiracy, and I don't know how to reach those people if they don't otherwise look at this and be like, oh, this is fucked up. I'm not sure what can be said to them to otherwise convince them against their own views. But my hope is that we're able to just reach like, I suppose like the average, reasonable, unradicalized person who may not necessarily know about the nuances or like these kinds of arguments, but don't get exposed to and just kind of buy into the wrong ones first,
Yeah, that's true.
All right, I think that's basically because we're coming up on the hour. Thank you so much for both of you coming on. Do you want to each shout yourself out, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, where to find you?
Well, yeah, sure, if I can begin. Well, I'm Miss Miranda. I have a small YouTube channel that's called Miss Miranda as well, and I do interviews. I normally interview people who, used to be conservatives. I have interviewed people that were former white nationalists as well. So if you'd like to look that up, that'd be nice.
Awesome.
My channel is Mouthy Infidel on YouTube. I kind of just like react to conservative videos, do like responses, and sometimes I'll do debates pretty frequently. That's mostly what I do, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, and I've watched some of those. Yeah, no, it's great content. You both have great content. I would advise anyone who is watching right now, go check out their videos, and I'll drop links. I've started doing this now, so I'll drop links to both of your social medias into the video when it goes live. So yeah, I don't know. Thank you both so much for coming on. I felt like this was a good conversation. I don't know. Like it is like good to be able to talk about like effectively like it's a conversation about like how like white nationalists get away with dog whistling. And it's like a conversation about like how to be able to respond and deal with that. I think this is good because like as we go forward, I feel like this is not the only person that we're going to see who does these sort of things, and it's good to be able to just kind of recognize what they're doing and be able to like respond to it accordingly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So thank you both so much for coming on. I got to get into my next call in a couple minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, thank you both so much for coming on. All right, talk to y'all later. All right,
See ya.
Bye.
bye.